Hey there guys, John Campea here, and thanks for visiting my movie vlog. And the weekend box office has come out, and it's a good weekend if your company just happens to be called Warner Brothers. Coming in the *1 spot this week is the new horror film, part of the Conjuring universe if you will, Annabelle Creation. The film took in about $35 million, which is right about on par with the last Annabelle film. However, a lot of people, including myself, expected the box office to be smaller for Annabelle Creation because, honestly, the last Annabelle movie kinda sucked ass. If you saw my review, which look in the description below, you'll see a link to my review for Annabelle Creation. I actually think this Annabelle film, Annabelle Creation, was actually quite good. I had a really good time watching this movie. It was basically everything the first Annabelle movie should have been, but completely failed to be. But at any rate, comes in at $35 million, good enough for first place, and has taken in over $70 million worldwide already on just a $15 million budget. I'm also really excited for director David F. Sandberg because Sandberg directed that great horror film last year, Lights Out, which was of course based on the same short film that he also directed. He took that short film he directed, made it into a full-length feature film. I didn't think it could be done, but he did it, turned out great. I really enjoyed this one. And now if you're a fan of the DC Cinematic Universe, this should be encouraging for you because David F. Sandberg, the guy who just directed Annabelle Creation, is also now directing the new Shazam film. And so if you're a fan of Lights Out, you've seen what he can bring, you see how he can use tone and atmosphere. Can he bring that to something more lighthearted and action-centered in Shazam? I think he can, but we'll find out soon enough. Also on the good news list for Warner Brothers, Dunkirk, the new Christopher Nolan film, came in second place in the box office, taking in another $11.4 million. Now, this is significant on a couple levels. Number one, it pushes Dunkirk over $150 million domestically, which is great, but the film has also made over $360 million worldwide. On the not so great news list for films that came out this weekend, you've got the Nutjob 2, Nutty by Nature. The film only made $8.9 million on its opening weekend, and this is a record low. Now, you might be saying to yourself, record low? I think we've heard of other movies coming out that made less than $8.9 million, and you would be correct. However, the Nutjob opened in over 4,000 theaters. No film ever in history opening in over 4,000 theaters have made this small amount of money, and now the Nutjob is the honorable holder of that prestigious title. $8.9 million was still good enough for the Nutjob to take third place on the chart, but you know this is not the result they were hoping for when they greenlit the damn thing. Coming in fourth place is the new Idris Elba, Matthew McConaughey envisioning of The Dark Tower. Now, this was a film that a lot of people were disappointed in, and I'm one of those guys who, while I will admit this movie was nowhere near as good as it could have been, and maybe even as it should have been, I still thought it was okay. I thought the movie was okay, but it was a big missed opportunity. The film only took in $7.8 million this weekend in its second weekend. That represents a nearly 60% drop. Now, we've seen other films take 60% drops before. However, this was a pretty weak weekend for box office. I mean, really, the #1 movie made $35 million. Your film should be able to survive better. If the #1 film only makes $35 million, you should do better than take a 60% drop. The film right now has made about $34 million domestically and about $53 million worldwide. That means right now, if everything were to end tomorrow, The Dark Tower ends up being a big money loser for the studio. Now, it still has some legs to it, and we'll see how far it goes, but I think at the end of the day, this is probably going to be one that ends up costing the studio some money. And rounding out the top 5, we've got the Emoji Movie making $6.6 million. But besides the top 5 at the box office, there are a couple of notable films here reaching some milestones that I think are worth talking about. In 6th place is, I think, one of the best pure comedy movies of the last 3 years, and that's Girls Trip. This movie was such a great, pleasant surprise. You've heard me talking about it recently, ever since I saw the damn movie. But anyway, it is the #1 live-action, box office-wise, live-action comedy at the box office this year, and this week it will cross the $100 million mark, a plateau that nobody thought this movie was ever going to cross, and it's about to do it now. Also of note, Spider-Man Homecoming. It crossed the $300 million domestic mark this week and the $700 million worldwide mark. Now, it should be noted that Spider-Man Homecoming has still not opened in Japan or China, 2 markets markets where the Spider-Man character is extremely popular. That happens shortly. It should push Spider-Man Homecoming well past the $800 million worldwide mark to make yet another big smashing success for the MCU. And one last really good positive note, one big milestone that got reached, the new Edgar Wright film Baby Driver crossed the $100 million domestic mark at the box office. Easily the biggest smash hit of Edgar Wright's career. It's funny to think about how well of a respected director Edgar Wright is, and yet this is his first movie that's ever even come close to making $100 million in the North American box office. There are still whispers about a Baby Driver sequel. I, for one, would love to see it. I'm sure crossing that $100 million mark will help. So once again, your top 5 at the box office this week. Number 1, Annabelle Creation. Number 2, Dunkirk. Number 3, The Nutjob 2, Nutty by Nature. Number 4, The Dark Tower. And number 5, the crappy Emoji Movie. But the big question here is, what do you think about the box office results this week? Did anything catch you by surprise? Are some things deserving to be doing better? Are some things not deserving to be doing as well as they are? Jump into the comment section below and leave me your thoughts. Hey, listen guys, since you're here, click on the subscribe button, become a subscriber to the John Campea YouTube channel. And listen, if you're one of the people who enjoys my videos that I do every day, 70 to 90 videos per month, consider becoming one of my Patreon supporters. Look in the description of this video, you'll find a link to my Patreon page to give you a whole bunch more information there. That'll do it for me, guys. Thanks a lot for joining me, and until next time, bye-bye.